Good morning, family. We've been going through 2 Timothy chapter 2 during our evening devotions with our children, and so I wanted to share some biblical principles that the Lord has taught us. In verse 20 it says, "But in a great house there are not only vessels of gold and silver, but also of wood and clay, some for honor and some for dishonor. Therefore, if anyone cleanses himself from the latter, he will be a vessel for honor, sanctified and useful for the master, prepared for every good work. Flee also youthful lusts, but pursue righteousness, faith, love, peace with those who call on the Lord out of a pure heart." I love what Warren Wiersbe says on this passage of Scripture. He says, the important thing is that honorable vessels not be contaminated by the dishonorable ones. So the word "these" in 2 Timothy 2:21, it refers to the vessels of dishonor. Paul is admonishing Timothy to separate himself from false teachers. If he does, then God will honor him, set him apart, and equip him for service. Now, useful to the master, this is a tremendous honor. A useful human vessel of honor does not get involved in the things of the world. He must remain holy, and this means he must be separated from everything that would defile him. Now, this also includes the sins of the flesh. Paul used a similar admonition in 1 Timothy 6:11 through 12, where he says, "Flee, follow, and fight." True separation is balanced. We flee sin, but we follow after righteousness. If we're not balanced, well, then we'll be isolated instead of separated. In fact, God's man, Paul, commands us to fellowship with them that call on the Lord out of a pure heart, verse 22. So, essentially, for God to be able to use us as vessels, we have to be empty, we have to be clean, we have to be available, and He will take us and fill us and use us for His glory. But if we are filled with sin or defiled by disobedience, He will first have to purge us, and that might not be very enjoyable. In the great house talked about here of the professing church, there are true believers and there are false believers. We must exercise discernment and be careful that we are vessels sanctified unto honor. And one last thing, I found it interesting when studying Timothy. The name Timothy, it actually comes from two Greek words which together mean God honoring. So the name of Timothy means God honoring. And Paul was encouraging Timothy in this letter to live up to his name. And we would do well, brothers and sisters, to live up to the name of Christ and to honor Him in this lost, dark, and decaying world. I pray this is a blessing to you. God bless, and Maranatha.